You already know what we're about to do. This is going to be the first tier list of 2025 for My Hero Ultra Impact. This is going to be a PvP tier list where we're going to place all of the new characters into the tier list that have been added to the game since the last time I did this. And we do have to make only one adjustment to the previous characters. So not a lot is going to be moving around with the old characters. The meta has not changed that much for like new characters coming in and kicking old characters out. But what I do need to do, and I feel like is necessary, is move Steampunk Deku up to at least sub-meta. Like you cannot argue that Steampunk Deku is not better than most of these other characters in A tier. He is pretty dang decent with his plus ultra effect and being able to effectively spam plus ultras as we get more characters that are able to do that. He has low cooldowns, he has piercing shot, he can be a very good character all the way around in my opinion, so I do think he moves up to S sub-meta tier. He is a very decent choice. Now for the rest of these characters, if you have any questions or debates or you don't agree with any of their placements, feel free to let me know down in the comments. And so we're going to go ahead and just start with the first character, Toru. Toru is the ideal healer if you lack any of the other healers in the higher tiers. So if like you don't have Celebration Yairozu, you don't have Compress, any of these characters up here, I think Toru is a very decent option because she has 4 turn cooldowns, she has evasion, she decreases the a single opponent's power and crit rate, she increases all allies max HP, she can also heal all allies, she also has the ability to hide, she can nullify 5 status ailments for all allies from the start of the battle, and on her plus ultra she can also blind an opponent potentially for 3 turns. I wish it was like a bind as opposed to a blind or a stun or something like that, because that for 3 turns would make her so much better, but unfortunately it's just a blind, and blind isn't that great in my opinion. So for that reason we're going to be placing Toru into A tier. I do think she is a competent healer. I put her about like the same as Komori, right? Her and Komori are pretty similar characters, and Mina, all 4 of these characters right here, Jiro, all 4 of these characters I would say are on par with each other as far as healers go. They're all fairly decent, but they're just not quite as good as some of the other healers up above like Yairozu and Compress, who are just kind of a cut above. Even Fantasy Jiro, very, very solid. All those characters have really good healing, really good effects, nullify status ailments, the ability to power up your allies. Status ailments for Compress, being able to bind enemies is still really good to this day. Like, Compress is one of the few general pool units that has just not fallen out of the meta. It's absolutely crazy. Maybe one day he'll get kicked out. Okay, next up we have 100 million All Might. This character is kind of crazy, and I honestly didn't expect them to put out such a like crazy fire character just to celebrate 100 million sales of the manga, which is crazy. I'm so happy that they put this character out and made him look good, and he's not just like, you know, get this character as a collection. He's actually a good character. So he is an amazing pro hero damage dealer, probably one of the best pro hero damage dealer characters in the game. He has 3 turn cooldowns, meaning you can essentially use whatever skill you want whenever you want. He can spam plus ultras if you choose to do that. He makes all allies ecstatic. He has piercing shot. He can decrease the action skill impact of both teams by 50% if you have an ABL type character on the team, which can be very unique and change up the scenarios in PvP like drastically. He can fatigue enemies when they receive cooldown time reduction, which stops them from gaining plus ultra gauge. He also decreases the speed of all opponents. He decreases the crit rate and power of all opponents. He nullifies status ailments, and he has bullseye. Is that not enough for you? He's absolutely insane. He is definitely an SS tier character. He is definitely a meta choice character, and it feels really good to have a pro hero character besides Aizawa. Notice we have 2 Aizawas up here. Feels really good to have a pro hero character up here in double S tier. And just in case you guys did not know, these tiers are not in order. So because Aizawa is at the top of SS does not mean that he is better than All Might, okay? The tiers themselves are not in order, so please keep that in mind. Next up, we have the new Winter Hawks. Oh my gosh, do I even need to say anything for this character? I think anybody that has taken him on or used him already knows, but he is by far in every way, maybe just one of the best supports in the game, but 100% the best pro hero support in the game. He lowers enemy crit rate, he has evasion, he gives speed to your allies, he has last stands, he restores HP of all allies, he increases the power of pro heroes, he reduces damage to allies, he increases his own max HP by 100% at the start of battle. He is just all the way around freaking broken, and he restores his own HP by like so much. He's just very, very good. He goes into double S tier as well. Running this new Hawks and new All Might together has felt very good. It's one of my favorite teams to run right now. You run these two characters actually, and then run them with Aizawa, and it's a very, very solid and very good team. I almost kind of want to move Aizawa up to double S tier, but assuming he's at level 100, I do have one major problem with him, and this is the reason I'm not going to move him up to meta, is because he is very, very squishy. So if people know how to target him or kill him, then he will die very easily, and that's my biggest problem with him. But if you have him at like level 130 or UR plus, it does kind of solve that problem. So just keep that in mind. But this whole tier list is just kind of based off the idea that most people only have their characters at level 100. Obviously, they're going to be the people that are the exceptions and have their characters at a higher overall level. Next up, we have Winter Sue. Winter Sue came out after Hawks, and honestly, I wasn't sure how I felt about her. And this was a character of much debate in the Discord, because I go into the Discord and I try to ask people their opinions on the tier list before I go and make these. That way I can get the community's input and see what people are thinking. So personally, I was originally going to put Winter Sue into A tier because I felt like she was just a competent character, but then I was convinced otherwise to put her a little bit higher. So I'll tell you right now, Winter Sue is going to go into S tier as a sub meta pick, probably like high S tier. There's an argument for her to go up to double S tier potentially. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments, but she is a very interesting support slash damage dealer. She does both things at the same time, which is pretty unique, and she has one of the most unique kits in the game because she has 10 turn cooldowns on her action skills that will decrease depending on skill chain usage and being attacked. She also gives a single ally at a time the ability to nullify status elements for 2 turns, and a 25% power and defense boost for 3 turns, and a 15% permanent power boost that is stackable. She can also cancel an ally's status elements and give them immunity to buff block, which can be really huge for 3 turns. If it did it for all allies, I would think it was a little bit better, you know? That's my biggest problem with her. She only does it for 1 ally, and she has a high chance to freeze an opponent on her plus ultra for 2 turns, and when she does that, it makes that opponent hide, so you don't actually break them out of the ice unless you have an AoE plus ultra after her or an AoE action skill the next turn. And she's just overall a very good damage dealer slash support character for your team, giving, you know, power, defense, and then doing nullify status elements and the ability to give immunity to buff block, and then also AoE big damage. Like, she just does a lot of things. So I think it's fair to put her in sub meta. Personally, I don't feel like she's quite meta yet, but I feel like there's definitely a lot of people that would say she is meta, but when I just look at these other characters that are up here, right, personally, I don't feel like she's as good as these other characters up here, but I definitely feel like she's on the same tier as some of these other characters that are in the sub-meta tier. But let me know your guys' thoughts, like I said. Next up, we have New Year's Kaminari and New Year's Jiro. Okay, so one of these characters is a complete flop, but we'll start with Kaminari. He is the best potential counter for Festival Kaminari, who everyone knows that this Festival Kaminari is an absolute menace, and they hate going against him because of his AoE paralysis, which is really, really good. So this Kaminari right here, just period, gives all allies immunity to paralysis. As long as his HP is above 30%, allies cannot be paralyzed. He himself can also not be paralyzed. However, he doesn't have status elements of his own, which is my biggest gripe. Like, he's Kaminari, he should be able to paralyze other people, which he doesn't really. So that's my biggest problem with him, but he does a lot of other things, okay? So he gives character the ability to cover allies, and he has Tranquility. He has Last Stance. He can lower the plus ultra gauge charge rate of enemies. He restores allies damage taken by 30%. He increases plus ultra of all allies by 30%. He decreases the opponent's crit resist and plus ultra impact by 15%. He extends opponent's cooldown time by 1. He has a bullseye on his plus ultra. He can heal himself multiple times, which allows him to tank. He has cancel status element block for all opponents for 2 turns at the start of battle, so they can't cancel status elements, and he's honestly just overall a very solid tank. But even though he's a good tank, he is severely lacking in damage and status elements, which are 2 things that are actually kind of important for PvP. He's also lacking speed. And because he's lacking those 3 things, I have to put him into A tier as competent. If he had just speed even, like, I'd probably move him up to sub-meta if he had a little bit of speed, or if he had a paralyze or something, man. He needed a little bit more. Like, he does a lot of stuff, and he's very, very good for the things that he does do. but it makes it hard to run him when you have a character that is as slow as him without any speed or any status ailments or anything like that. Next up, we have New Year's Jiro. So I will say, flat out, she is the best mind type support if you are going to run specifically an all mind type character team. However, that is kind of hard to do because there are not a ton of yellow type characters that do big damage. I think one of your best damage dealers is Yellow Dabi. The rest of your yellow type characters, you have Nejire, you have Deku, you have Todoroki, Kirishima, Best Jeanist, like all of these characters up here are your best yellow characters, and none of them are attacker characters with damage. So you can't really run like right now an all yellow team and expect to do well in PvP because there are no really good yellow type attackers. And so just in general, Jiro's only good in climax battle, one climax battle, the Endeavor climax battle. She won't even be good in the other climax battle. She's so bad in arena. But what does she do? She restores the HP of all mind type allies, and when 5 mind allies are on the team, she increases the power and max HP of all allies. She gives allies the ability to nullify 2 status ailments. She reduces status ailment effective time, so like if your allies are burnt or frozen or anything like that, she can reduce the effective time, but that's not really that helpful to you in my opinion because it doesn't immediately nullify or get rid of like stuns or things like that mess up your skill chains, so that's not that great in PvP. She also reduces status ailment. I just said that. Status ailment effective time. She also increases burn resist of all allies. Like, cool if you're going to take on a Endeavor, but how many people are actually running Endeavor in PvP? Like, Blue Endeavor's good, but I feel like you still don't see him too often, so that's not that crazy. She also reduces mind type allies cooldown time by 1 on her plus ultra, which is good. Cooldown time reduction is always good, but you do specifically have to run mind type allies, which kind of limits her uses. So honestly, if you're going to use this Jiro in PvP, just straight up, you are going to be using her for fun. You are not going to be using her for anything else but fun. And if you are using her as one of your main healers, like, good luck. It's going to be a tough ride for you. And last but not least, we have the New Year's Endeavor. So New Year's Endeavor is a very interesting character because not everybody has him built up right now, as he is a brand new free-to-play character. It takes time to earn the climax battle medals to be able to get him to max level and get his Peace Route and DX Peace Route done. And so just based on my initial impression, looking at his kit, trying him out, I would say personally he is going to be A to S tier, maybe even double S tier. He has a lot of potential to be a very high damage character, one of the best damage characters in the game, I would say, but it's yet to be seen until we actually get to test him out a little bit more. I did recently get his Peace Route done. I'll be doing a showcase on him hopefully here shortly within the next week, where I do it with his Peace Route completed, because previously I did a showcase where he was board 6, which was like not that impressive. It was okay, but I feel like he'll be a lot better level 85, at least level 90, somewhere in there, and having his regular basic route done. Did I say his Peace Route done? I have his basic route done up to board 13. Okay, so I'll be doing that showcase here eventually, and hopefully that'll give us a better idea, if you guys watch that, on how good he's actually going to be in PvP. So what can he do? He has Burn and Scorch. Scorch lowers the HP regen effectiveness of an opponent. He has Piercing Shot on his plus ultra. He can cancel, this is the big thing, status ailment nullification effects of an enemy. I think that is insanely good. He decreases the enemy's power by 20% for 10 turns on his action skill 1, so he can stack that over and over again to make it so they don't hit you very hard. He has Piercing Shot on his action skill 2, if the opponent is already burning. He has 4 turn cooldowns. He can nullify status ailments for 3 turns at the start of battle, which is really good, and he gives himself a 100% HP boost. Also, he gets persistence after 10 turns, and he increases the speed of all allies by 25% if there is a class 1A character on the team, which is easy to achieve. So he fits really well on the pro hero team. I see him being very, very good with Hawks and All Might potentially as a damage dealer, because you have the speed that they do, and then him also giving the 25% speed is interesting and can be super, super useful. Okay, now beyond that, he also burns all opponents if he has resilience every turn, and then he decreases the skill impact of all opponents by 40%, and he's just overall a very good character with low cooldowns, decent damage, status elements, like everything you could want. Just not a lot of people have him built up yet. So for that reason, I'm going to put Endeavor into S tier, because I feel like S tier is fair for him. There is an argument for him to potentially move down, once again, down to A tier, where he's competent, or up to double S tier. We'll just have to wait and see, you know, how he kind of plays out when people start to get him to like level 100, and see if he performs as well as some of these other characters in sub-meta, or is he going to underperform compared to them and move down, or is he going to overperform compared to them and move up? We'll just have to see. But I feel like S is a fair place for him right now, just looking at his kit, having tested him out a little bit. I think he has a lot of potential, but let me know your guys' thoughts once again. And that is it for the tier list. I do know that we have the new Dabi announced, which is very, very hype, but I am not going to place that Dabi yet. I'm going to wait, because I don't like to place characters until we have them in the game and have tested them out. So when he does come out, I'll probably do another tier list. Realistically, the next tier list will probably be after the global anniversary, which is in February. So we'll be able to place Dabi and the new anniversary character. So if you guys want to see that, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button and hit that like button on this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.